Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive? To recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Phasers Set to Stun, where we continue to show our love for everything Star Trek in this ongoing series from a Film by Podcast, which focuses on every quadrant of the expanding universe of Trek, by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and much more. Plotting the course, as always, is your core Trek crew. I'm David Burns.
I'm Scott Hoffman.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
Well, gentlemen, I know we discussed 7 seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation, so now it is time to move to the big screen with our favorite crew. Just as they made the leap, so are we, and of course that means we are discussing Star Trek Generations, a film that came out in 1994 and was directed by David Carson, who I might add also directed yesterday's Enterprise, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, and the pilot of Deep Space Nine. Fantastic job, too.
That's right, yeah. I have to say, I remember how ecstatic I was to see the crew on the big screen for the first time. What about you guys?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You couldn't help but look forward to it. It was just fantastic that we were getting them. We knew they were going to be moved to the screen, but here we were getting, a combination. I mean, Picard and Kirk together, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And it was more of an investment with Next Generation for me than original series.
Right.
Yes.
But still, to see the films continuing on regardless, much less now we're launching into kind of a Next Generation era, was fantastic.
Yeah, well, after that finale, we wanted more. I mean, fortunately, we didn't have to wait too long to get it.
Yeah, thank goodness. Unlike the original crew.
Yeah.
So we'll take this any day. All right, well, red alert, everyone. Unlike when we discussed the series, this episode is going to be full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, please go and watch it and then come back to join us. We will be waiting. I also would like to say it would be a good idea to go watch the Next Generation episode, Season 4, episode titled Family. We did recommend that episode when we were covering that season because it has some significant themes that are dealt with in this episode. In this film. All right, well, let's break it down. Wayne, give us a summary on what this film is all about.
In 2293, Captain James T. Kirk, Montgomery Scott, and Pavel Chekhov have been invited to the inaugural launch of the USS Enterprise B. But what was supposed to be a quick trip around the planets on a shakedown cruise turns into a desperate rescue mission of 2 ships caught in a stellar phenomenon called the Ribbon. The Enterprise B becomes trapped in the Ribbon, and Captain Kirk seemingly sacrifices himself to save both the ship and the refugees they are rescuing. Meanwhile, in 2371, the crew of the USS Enterprise D answered the distress call of an El-Aluran named Soren, only to find themselves caught in a massive plot created by Soren to bring the Ribbon to the planet Viridian 3, so that he may pass through it to another dimension called the Nexus, where all wishes can come true. They must stop Soren, but to do so may cost Captain Picard and his crew everything, and only the outside help of a famous figure from the past can turn the tide in their favor and save the planet and its civilization from total destruction.
Excellent. Talk a little bit about the cast. You already mentioned, that we get some of the original crew members joining us for this. And I know we'll get to discussing a little bit later, but guys, I got to tell you, I got chills when I got to see Kirk and Picard share the screen for the first time.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We that's something we'd wanted ever since 1987's. We wanted to see them together, and we got a little bits. We got to see Spock, we got to see McCoy and Scotty, but we wanted Kirk.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I mean, it would always seem like there was kind of this comparative angle to the two. Mm-hmm. Is it Picard? Is it Kirk? Which is better, and all this other kind of stuff. So it was great to see them finally share the screen and get a little bit of equal play, equal footing there. But it was also interesting to find out that kind of bridge between generations. Like you said, a lot of them we had already mentioned, like relics, gave us that kind of connection. But there was always this one big one that was missing.
Yeah, and that was the big one, no doubt about it. And it made sense that they saved it for the theater, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you'd kind of have to, like, for an event that huge. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and by this time, the Next Generation has proved itself to stand on its own.
Yeah.
There was very little more of that conflict that you mentioned. The Kirk versus Picard. So this was the right timing for it.
Yeah, absolutely, it was. So this film obviously is full of our original cast members from the Next Generation as well. They all are back for the film. We also got some additions. You talked about Soren, who plays Malcolm McDowell, plays Soren, who does a wonderful job. Yes, fantastic job in this movie. We got the Duras sisters back, who we know they popped their ugly heads from time to time in this series. They come back for a final time, I might add, which we'll get to that scene. I'm sure we will. Let's talk a little bit about the Enterprise B crew, guys. Surprise Captain Alan Ruck.
Yeah, Captain Harriman. I was very surprised to just see him. There were a lot of familiar faces that I saw kind of in the periphery that I'm sure we're going to talk about in a minute. But he did a great job as Captain Harriman.
He did.
I thought. And I would love to have seen, even if it's a kind of, extended lore future series, see some of the exploits of Captain Harriman.
Yeah. It's funny when you see him on the bridge on how rusty he is and how new he is. And when he's making decisions and talking, you see Kirk really wanting to jump in and do something, you know? Yeah. And thankfully he finally does go to Kirk and say, "Hey, I need some help here, man."
Yeah.
Well, this is something I just read, and I never realized that this was the angle, but the writers were actually leaning for his character to be more of like the rich kid that's been moved up to the ranks quickly through just because his family is influential, and that he's using this command as a way of getting into the politics, which I never thought of it that way, but when you hear that, it makes a little more sense.
Yeah, that does. I wish that would came out a little bit more in this.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I know they had a lot to deal with in this story, so I guess they couldn't beat around the bush too much. But I like that. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if he's one that's more suited for diplomacy.
Yeah.
Right? And first contact kind of situations, not necessarily how do we get out of this crazy action sequence and save the lives of millions. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And another interesting officer, lieutenant here, and is Tim Russ. Where are we going to see him at, Wayne?
Well, he's popped up a couple of times in the Next Generation, but I think we'll see him just about 2 months later, actually, in Star Trek Voyager, Lieutenant Tuvok.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's another science officer who's very recognizable. Scott, who is that?
That's alternate universe Tasha Yar. Jeanette Goldstein.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I don't know if we had mentioned it before, but it struck me as something new to learn that Jeanette Goldstein, who we all know and love as Vasquez from Aliens, that we obviously talked about in 1986.
Absolutely.
John Connor's foster mom in T2, among others, was originally considered for the role of Tasha Yar on TNG. I wouldn't hate seeing that.
No, me neither.
But I am so glad that we got Denise Crosby.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And that could be a what if,
Exactly.
I wouldn't mind have seen that, but I love Denise Crosby and what she gave us, but it would have been neat to see what Jeanette would have brought to the screen too, because she's an awesome actress.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's dive into the film, guys. I know there's so much to talk about with this movie. And I know we're all just boiling over here to start talking about it. The opening sequence, which I found quite interesting, the champagne bottle flipping end over end in space, and you get obviously the credit roll and stuff like that, as in a beautiful music by Dennis McCarthy, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're wondering, why is this bottle flipping through space? What the hell is going on? And then when it hits the ship, you're like, okay, that makes perfect sense. I thought it was a cool opening.
It is, and it's a last-minute addition. That was not originally the opening for the film.
Really? Then what was it?
They had shot a very lengthy scene of Kirk doing skydiving, but from orbit.
Really?
Yeah, and that Chekhov and Scott was on the ground when he got there, and they're complaining about Kirk being very reckless and wanting to end his life, not caring about life or death at that point. It was a long scene, and it was completely shot. But they decided it was a little bit too much for the opening of the film, and we got the bottle. And I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I love the bottle opening.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been a little bit too Voyage Home.
Yes.
Right.
Or no?
Yeah. Or Star Trek
of?
5 with the
Final
mountain.
Frontier, climbing the mountain.
Thank you. Yeah, climbing the mountain. Exactly.
Yeah.
It felt like this opening was a lot more. Kirk is there with Chekhov and Scotty. He's willing to go through the ceremony of passing the baton, right? Even though it's not the baton that we were kind of looking for yet.
Right.
But it's him accepting that, and I think tonally for this, as far as legacy, it absolutely fits. And I mean, you've got a great mix. I know that Scotty and Chekhov's roles were initially planned for other cast members. But when you mention kind of Captain Harriman and his abilities, or his perceived abilities at the time, that needed to be saved by Kirk, Scotty has that great line where he's like, "Is there something wrong with your chair?"
Yeah.
Like, you have to let him try to work this out in his way, because this is his crew, this is his ship, this is his first voyage. Let him try.
Well, that even leads to, when you're talking about that even leads to when Captain Harriman was going to go down to to that level, and Kirk, he says, you have the bridge, and then Kirk starts to sit down, and then he realizes, no, this is your ship, you're in command, and they switch positions there, and then Kirk goes and does it. Which we already know what that's going to lead to, but yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense right there on that scene too.
I love that moment too. I mean, Kirk, of course, he wants to be captain of the Enterprise, but he realizes it's not his ship.
Yep.
I love that moment.
Yeah. I did too. So much happens in this beginning. You get to see some of these original crew members who are basically obviously at their retirement point, and they're getting to see a new ship, a new crew, but then they get shoved into this distress signal to go to help these ships. They have no choice. At first Harriman's like, get another ship to go do it, and that's when Kirk starts to go off, wait a minute, you got to do this, right? And then of course they are forced into going to doing it because no one else can help, and then they go and do it, and just so much is going on here with this opening.
Let me add, too, these captains should know that these shakedown cruises never go easy. We've seen that over and over again. Something always happens.
Always. Yeah. I mean, come on, you should be ready for this, right, by now? But
they should have like a standby shuttle that's just kind of ready. Like, we have all the stuff that should be installed just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny because it's funny when everything goes crazy, the original crew members immediately jump into action when they're basically asked to. They go right into it. They don't miss a step. And I love how that happened in this film, and they did it that way. But we obviously get to the point where, one of the ships blows up and the other one gets ready to blow up, and they're able to beam some of them on board. And that's where we're introduced to Soren. But the next person we're introduced right away, I thought was so cool how they did this.
Yeah.
When you get to see Guinan, you're like, whoa, that's Guinan.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised to learn that Whoopi Goldberg isn't credited on this movie, and I'm like, considering how important she is to the story and the franchise, that was surprising.
Yeah. She asked not to be credited. She didn't want, because she's an Academy Award winner, she didn't want her name to be to take away from the Next Generation cast members, because that would require her to be to get top billing.
And you're right, it would. Good for her for doing that. That's fantastic. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But it is a great connective thread, and it kind of it seeds the idea of mystery in this, which Guinan always does. Like, I was always hungry for more about Guinan. What can we learn? And this definitely sets that up.
Yeah. Well, and you're even to the point. I mean, we don't get the original crew till 18, 20 minutes into this film.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is the point of the film that you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is a Next Generation movie. When they introduce Guinan. But it also gives more of that mystique about her. You're like, oh, we're gonna get to learn some more about her here. And
we know she's lived for a long time. We saw her back in the 19th century.
Yeah, we sure did. But and then of course the bad things happen. The ship gets struck by that ribbon, and we lose Kirk, which was pretty powerful moment for some of our crew members here.
Yeah.
And then, you're at the point now, you're like, oh crap, as an audience, you're like, man, what an opening. And then we get to see our crew of the Next Generation on an old Enterprise.
Yeah.
Well, and particularly, I think James Doohan did a great job with Scotty's delivery there.
Oh, yes.
His reaction, Kirk, please respond, reminded me a lot of Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
Bridge scene, like acknowledging Spock is in trouble. Very poignant and very well done. I think the way that I know there were ideas about continuing that a little bit more. I think ending it right where they did was perfect.
It was
great.
And let's not forget Sulu's daughter.
Oh yeah. Demora.
Yeah. I thought that was perfect casting for this, and a perfect place to put her as a surprise to Kirk. When did he have time to make a family?
Well, and it feeds into that kind of legacy and family theme, right? And it didn't hit me until recently watching this how much there are kind of parallels between Kirk's life, Picard's life, the rest of the crew's lives.
Yeah.
In terms of when do they get to live a life? When do they get to have a family? Very interesting kind of threads there, an interesting acknowledgement from Kirk of that, and Chekhov saying like, well, he has a life outside the ship. What are you going to do?
Right. Well, and as I said, we move on to an old Enterprise. Obviously, we're on the holodeck, and it's a big event because they are promoting Worf.
Finally,
yes. He goes to Lieutenant Commander. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, he gets promoted to Lieutenant Commander in a unique way of doing it. What I like about this scene here is it gives you a reintroduction to the crew, but it also gives you little tidbits of some of the characters that maybe if you've not watched the series, this kind of gives you some information about them really quick, specifically Data, because he comes up pretty quick and they realize that he's still struggling, that he doesn't have emotions, and he's trying to figure out why it's funny that they removed the plank and Worf fell into the water. Okay. And then he turns around, obviously, and pushes Crusher into the water.
Which I thought was funny. Nobody else did, but I did.
I thought it was hysterical. But, I like how they did that. Just in case you got some audience members who don't know the Next Generation crew, you're going to get a little bit of information about these characters.
Yeah.
Well, it leads into a great sequence with Geordi and Data.
Yeah.
Where he says, I'm clearly not going to be able to go any further. It does seem a little odd for him to make such a big decision based on his joke of pushing Crusher into the water is not hitting. Right. It's kind of like, so I can be better at comedy. But at the same time, it seemed like if we're going to go into a Next Generation movie, and this is something that Data's been pursuing his entire life, let's finally give it to him. Let's finally start that thread here so we can use it to greater effect in other movies. Now, I am curious about our opinion of Data's emotion scenes, because they are quite different.
Yeah.
So, I guess we can go ahead and discuss a little bit of that, because I found his humor hysterical. I felt that this is Brent Spiner giving him a chance to shine once again, as he has done through the entire 7 years of Star Trek The Next Generation. Yep. This gave him some opportunity to give us some comedic relief.
Yeah.
And I felt he nailed it, because every time it happens, I bust out laughing. Now, I will say his continuing laughing on the space station got a little bit annoying.
That was creepy, actually.
It was but creepy. Up to the right point, when it becomes creepy, and it's kind of like he is out of control of these emotions. And that kind of continuing to this desperate need of, he's not going to be able to control it when it really matters.
Right, absolutely. Well, let's take a short little break, guys, and then we'll come back. We'll continue our discussion of this film. All right, everybody, welcome back to our discussion here at Phaser Set to Stun on Star Trek Generations. We were discussing a little bit about Brent Spiner and his humor that he was bringing with the emotion chip that he had put in. But before we get further into that, because again, there's some very good comedic moments that I want to discuss, let's back up a little bit and let's talk about the message Captain Picard got, where he was on the old Enterprise on the holodeck, where you completely and immediately see his change of emotion, which again goes to the power of Patrick Stewart's performing. On a dime, his emotions will completely change just by looking at his eyes. Incredible performance here. And this goes to the episode we were talking about from season 4 called Family. We learn that his brother and his nephew are killed in a fire. And he really doesn't want to talk about it. He really wants to keep it internalized. He doesn't want to give that to his crew, the emotions, the pain that he's feeling. I kind of get that. And then when he's in I guess it was the conference room, it wasn't the ready room, when Troy shows up, she kind of gets on him, she sits down, hey, what's going on? And he's still kind of hiding it from her. And then he kind of tells her what's happening and goes, it's all right. It's all right. And she has that line, no, it's not all right. And then has this breakdown and just goes on. You getting to see Picard, the human side of Picard coming out, which we have seen before. And we've discussed it before and how good Patrick Stewart is with this. He proves it here too, guys.
Yeah. What you just described is probably, I would say, my favorite scene of the film, because it's such a powerful scene, and for exactly those reasons, Patrick Stewart is phenomenal. He's phenomenal in everything, but here he just really shows the emotion that he can bring to Captain Picard, to Star Trek. It's just an incredible scene.
Yeah, and his character always had a great sense of family, even if he's somebody who didn't necessarily like children, right? Or was uncomfortable around children. It's part of the growth that his character went through. And I think we talked about a lot of those instances in Starter Treks. But I love the fact that you brought up family, because that particular episode didn't hit too well when I first saw it. And in a similar fashion, hearing that news didn't hit as well because I didn't make that connection. When you see those two and you see how close he came to making a different choice, not going back to the Enterprise, staying on Earth where he might have had at least a chance of being there, if not to save his family members, to be there for his surviving family members and help them through it.
Right.
It's a very difficult scene, and one that I think provides kind of a good bridge into even Picard season 3.
Yes.
It's not that he didn't. It's not that he never wanted family. It's that he never knew how it would fit into his life.
Exactly. And it really sets up what's coming a little bit later into this film. That's something he has to deal with briefly. But it is a really powerful moment for this character. We've seen many powerful moments with this character. But then we also have the scene before this too, where, Riker was trying to get it out of him. He goes into his writer room to find out what's going on, and he cares, but then, Picard just blows up to him a little bit, and obviously Riker respects it and doesn't probe any further and just walks away. Counselor Troy could get away with that a little bit more.
That's her job. That's her job, yeah.
Not the first number one. He couldn't do it. Get out. But no, I mean, that was a very powerful moment in the movie for sure. And Wayne, I agree with you. It's one of my favorite scenes of this entire movie, and I'm sure we'll get around to that or likes a little bit later. But again, they make it to the space station, and they get introduced to Soren, and we find out kind of what's going on with this dude, and the story starts getting a little bit more interesting here, right? We want to know what he's up to, and then more of Data's antics when he goes back onto the space station. That's where the creepy laugh comes in.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I found hysterical was open sesame.
I'm glad you said that. I love that. That makes me crack up every time.
Me too. And then he goes, I must have a magnetic personality. And it just goes on and on.
So I also love Geordi's deadpan take on it, right? Because that's the other half of the comedy delivery. It's kind of like somebody that's being zany and over the top and way too wacky. It's like, working on the bridge with Carrot Top, right? And you're saying, okay, at what point do you turn off?
Right.
It's done really well. And I think considering Malcolm McDowell and Soren, when we start to see more of his character, from the diplomatic side when he's talking to Picard to the sinister side we start to see unfold in that scene, I think it's interesting to note for viewers and fans of Deep Space Nine to know that Malcolm McDowell is maternal uncle of Alexander Siddig, who played Dr. Julian Bashir on DS9. Yeah. Now, I didn't know that before watching this, but I couldn't unsee the similarities in both kind of his, his facial features, but also kind of some of his lines of delivery.
Yeah.
The similarity is definitely there. So I'd recommend that to anybody who's a fan of DS9. Just go into this, watching this, knowing that.
Yeah. And I know Patrick Stewart and Malcolm McDowell were good friends. Because I think, wasn't it Patrick Stewart who got Malcolm McDowell this job, right?
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
Which, good choice for sure.
Oh, yes.
And then another deep cut that I found hysterical here was the fact that when, out of nowhere, Data just starts laughing, and he's like, I get it! And then you're just like, what is he talking about? He goes all the way back to Encounter at Farpoint from the joke.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, I think we covered in one of the episodes. There's an episode with Q where he temporarily grants Data emotion through his Q powers, and he starts laughing and, laughing uncontrollably, and then stops and just right back to work. Yeah.
But let's talk about something for a moment here. How many times has Data caused problems on the ship? Are you really going to take a chance here again by giving him the emotion chip? I mean, let's think this through, honestly.
Well, I mean, it's clear that they went to some kind of trouble, because they went from turning it into a flattened pip when we first saw Dr. Soong hold it, to something that looked like a Borg modulated Chex Mix.
Yeah, it was huge.
Right. So it's kind of like, considering then, I mean, I'm glad in First Contact he eventually is able to cock his head and turn it off.
Yeah.
Seems like that should be in day one of the manual. Let's turn this off just in case there's some lore type tendencies in there, and you turn out to be an absolute jerk with your emotions.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, let's visit Mr. Tricorder here and make it so. Let's talk about the Duras sisters who make their appearance here.
Yeah.
So we know this story's been going on for a while, and it's nice to have them back here because we get some closure with them here. And I love the fact that Soren basically does something to Geordi's visor so that they can see what's going on. And as he's walking around the ship, because you're wondering, why are they watching this? What are they going to gain from this? The funny part was when they see Crusher pop up.
Yeah. Or when they say, I didn't know an engineer would spend so much time avoiding engineering.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys did put nanoprobes in his chest and stuff, so
right.
Give him a little bit. But Barbara March and Gwyneth Walsh as Lursa and Bator, they've always been amazing. It's great to see them here.
Yep.
It does seem kind of interesting for the original series watcher, who never bothered with Next Generation, wouldn't necessarily know who they are.
Yeah.
But that we're having a Klingon villain in a world where the Klingons aren't the villains anymore. I wonder if that was kind of an intentional bridge to say, we're going to introduce with the original cast to say the Klingons are villains again, but it's more like renegade Klingons, which we've seen before.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good touch. That's a good point to bring up, Scott. I like that, for sure.
And it's two characters. We never really got to see too much of them anyways in the series. I mean, we had the two-parter, and then they came back briefly in another episode. And before this movie, the last time we'd seen them was on the second episode of Deep Space Nine, and even then it wasn't very long. So I was glad to see them in here, because I love the character. They were well, they're funny, but but they're great characters, and it's a pity that this is their final appearance.
Yep. But I liked what they used Geordi's visor for to get what the shield's what was the
shield frequency?
The shield frequency, to get that so they can shoot right through the shields, and then you get this battle between the two of them, and then of course the Enterprise comes up with let's try to access their cloaking device and make them cloak, and then we have hardly any time to be ready to fire at them as soon as they do that.
Well, here let me also mention this real quick, so I want to see your opinion. we see next film in First Contact, Geordi has gotten rid of his visor. Do you think that maybe this incident could be one of the main reasons? I mean, after all, his visor put the ship in danger.
Yeah.
This could be one of the reasons why he wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah, it could be.
Well,
and this is the last time for that visor, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time that it was used against him. Is that right? Because in the Next Generation episode that we covered, there was a carrier wave that was sending him subliminal signals.
That's right. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To kind of make him a Manchurian candidate kind of thing again. So
yes.
I think I feel like that was probably a relief to LeVar Burton to say you don't have to wear this anymore.
But unfortunately,
right, you're going to have contacts that have their own discomfort, but at least we won't get to go there.
At least we can see his eyes now, finally.
Exactly.
Yeah. Something else in that whole sequence that I couldn't unsee because I'll just jump to the point. Brian Thompson as one of the Klingon helmsmen.
Mm-hmm.
We had seen him before as Second Officer Clag when Riker was serving on a Klingon ship.
Oh yeah, he was. You're right.
Yeah. I saw him in the background and I was like, "Is that Clag?" And he's still around, and he's just gone to the Duras side.
Good for him.
Obviously, we talked about him in 86's Cobra as the Night Slasher, but he has a very distinctive look, and it was just great to see him again.
Yeah, absolutely. Another funny moment I'm going to bring up that happened before this battle is when Data is taking on the bridge, and they ask him to look for life forms. And okay, so bear with me here. So when he sits down and started singing life forms, tiny little life forms, you
it's
precious little life forms, where are you? I'm telling you, I laughed so hard. I still laugh so hard at that, man. Even the reaction of the bridge crew, her looking at him like, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah.
My favorite part of that was the little canasta snap that he does at the end, where he's like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
That is great.
It was. He had so many moments. And then right after they blow up the Klingon ship, everybody's got that like look and like, wow, we just did it. And then it goes on a Data and he just like, yes.
Right. Yeah.
But then, as you know, I mean, it hurts the ship, man. We get to lose Enterprise D here, which was tough to see. Because come on, guys, Enterprise 2 is a main character. It really is. And to get to see it get destroyed here, which is another one of my favorite scenes in this movie.
Yes.
That whole crashing sequence as the saucer section is just plowing into that ground, that was amazing, man.
That was incredible, and we never seen anything like that in Star Trek before. That was amazing effects.
Yep. And just getting to see the people being thrown around and just, the chaos that you see, it just, that was amazing stuff, man. It really was. And it just speaks to how much detail, how much money they were putting into this film. They wanted to look great. And they proved it right there. And I think that was even a model, wasn't it? That wasn't any CGI.
No, that was all model, yeah. Because, most of this TV series was done by a company named MHG, with the exception of the first season that was done by ILM. Well, this film was back again to ILM, and they were able to pull out their 6-foot model that they built for that's what we saw, that 6-foot model, because it's the only model that was ever built that could separate.
Yeah. Oh.
But for the ground, they had to build a brand new saucer. They put a 12-foot saucer section, and that was all practical effects.
Man, it looked so good.
It does. It looks great.
There's a perfect choice to do that, to go with practical effects, because there is something to, I feel like in the latest watching of this, it gives you a sense of heft and scale to this event happening, and how massive the saucer section really is, how massive the ship is. We also see it in kind of the abstract concept of space, but in the scale, when it's plowing through like a tornado ripping through miles of a landscape, hopefully it didn't take away hopefully it didn't run over the entire pre-industrial civilization that was emerging on the planet, but,
Oops, sorry.
There's just one guy coming back with like vines in his hands, like, what?
On the flip side, too, talking about visual effects, this is the first time we've ever seen the Enterprise D as CGI, because that was something they never could do in the TV series. The ILM, the shots in space of it warping and everything are all CGI.
Yeah. Speaking of first, how did you guys feel about Data's "oh shit"?
I remember, when I was sitting and watching this in the theater. This is the moment everybody laughed.
Yep.
They loved that. That was funny. I thought it was funny. I loved it too.
I did too.
Dave, I
it
gotta
was
admit,
great routine.
It gave me 1986 Transformers the movie vibes.
It did.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I didn't.
That's
think of that,
immediately what came to mind for me.
I completely agree with that. It does.
Yeah.
But it even I knew it was coming, and I applauded again watching it to prep for this podcast because it just hits out of nowhere.
Plus, that's what we're thinking too when that happens as well.
Yeah. The whole crew would be, right?
Yep.
Without question. Well, as this is going on, obviously Picard is fighting Soren and basically loses and gets taken into the Nexus. Where, come on, guys, let's be honest here. I think if you get ripped into the Nexus, and even Guinan mentions this, that you're not want to leave it, and because it's going to give you everything that you want. And she's right. I mean, if I went into the Nexus, I wouldn't want to leave it.
No,
I could see why Soren was wanting to go back. Heck yeah. I mean, and then Picard gets everything he wants here, man. He gets a wife, he gets kids, he gets Renee back, his nephew. I mean, why would you want to leave that? But yet Picard still realizes what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
it's almost
tough.
It's almost like an empathetic version of the Black Mercy from the Superman story for the man who has everything, right? It's something that's going to wrap you in joy that you never want to leave.
Yeah.
As, I guess, kind of recompense for the fact that it is a massively destructive force that comes through every 39 years.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It was interesting to me how it was set up, or how they kind of talked about it, because it felt like something they had never encountered before, yet it comes around on a regular basis. It just didn't seem to have any kind of background, but
right.
By the same token, when we're pulled into the Nexus with Kirk, this is where it starts to become a little tough to follow. And I will say, when I first saw this, I had a hard time distinguishing between Guinan in the real world and Echo Guinan, and what exactly was going on, which I think was intentional, but there was a lot of squirrel kind of logic in that Nexus sequence. It was tough to follow.
That's right. Yeah.
It was, because I mean, I still kind of think about, because she said even he got here, he feels like he just got here, and that's Kurt that she's talking about.
Right.
But it's like, that was like 80 years ago. I'm confused.
I guess there's no time. That time doesn't really mean anything in there. Whether you're there for a long time or you just arrived. It's a very odd concept. It's kind of hard to get your head around.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's kind of interesting that, I'm pretty sure Guinan never encounters Kirk on the Enterprise, right?
No,
So
I don't think so.
when we meet him, he's chopping wood. It seems like he's just gotten here, and that's what Guinan even says.
Yeah.
But she has knowledge of him and historical context and awareness of him. So it's possible that they had some kind of interaction within the Nexus, but he just doesn't remember it. It's that wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey kind of thing.
I was going to say that too.
But it also seems to set up kind of an interesting idea for the Echo Guinan. That if this thing comes through every 39 years, chances are it's probably going to encounter somebody else again or swoop somebody into the Nexus.
Yep.
That she's going to encounter every future iteration, every future visitor there. But it's all from the perspective of who she was at that time.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But it was neat to get Kirk and Picard together, though.
Oh,
and the Picard doing his best to talk Kirk into realizing, this is your duty. You have to come back and help me, basically. That's who you are. But then, Kirk wants to stay where he's at. I don't blame him. I would too. Until he realizes that it's not real, of what he's feeling, of what's going on around him. Which leads them to the final fight with Soren. We obviously lose Kirk in good fashion. And my understanding is they had to redo that. Did they not, Wayne?
Yes, they did. it was a very quick and different ending, and it did not test very well with the audiences that saw it. So they went back almost 4 months later. It was like about a month and a half before the release of the film, and reshot the ending, made it longer, made it more exciting, and it tested better.
Yeah, because I think originally wasn't Soren shoots Kirk in the back.
Yes, that's
and
exactly
then
how
Picard kills Soren. I think it was the
yes.
Yeah, I don't like
he
that
blew
at all.
up. Yeah. It was too quick. You're after 2 hours of the film, then boom, it's all over with. And
yeah, that wouldn't have worked. And I agree with the test audience on that one. Thank God they changed it.
Yeah, but it seems like they also had this intentional setup that you've got Picard, who is not as physical a captain as Kirk is. So to give Kirk more physical kind of opportunities in this, not just duking it out with Soren, but also he's able to roll with the bridge.
Yep.
He's able to jump and leap and do all these physical things that we're kind of used to Kirk doing.
Yeah.
And a more heroic death than just getting shot.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is very emotional that we got to see that ending. Stuff like that. All right. Well, let's take another break, guys. When we come back, we'll go behind the scenes and continue our discussions. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Phaser Set to Stun as we continue our discussion of Star Trek Generations. Any interesting behind the scenes, guys, that you found or wanted to talk about?
There are a couple things, and I'd like to hear your opinion on one of them too. Let's talk about the Enterprise D. We've seen it for 7 years, and it was originally designed by Herman Zimmerman, and he came back and redid the bridge set. He added computer consoles. He raised the captain's chair off the floor. I don't know if you noticed there was a step there. He reworked the ceiling, because he'd always been unhappy with some of the original designs. Of course, they were designed for television. Now with film, they had to, hide the imperfections, create more details. But in my opinion, it was like the Enterprise was on low power the entire time. The lights were way too dark.
Yeah.
For all the sets, especially the scenes in 10 Forward. It was almost as if Guinan turned all the lights off, like I guess it was last call or something. I liked some of the mood lighting because it allowed only the lighting coming through the windows from whatever was outside. But it seems such a weird contrast to what we saw for the last 7 years.
Well, yeah, because in the TV series, everything was bright. I mean, there was hardly any dark corners on that ship. Now, at times, it's almost a little too dark. I understand at points what they're trying to do. They're giving it that cinematic look.
Yeah, I just think they went a little bit too far.
I agree. They did go a little bit too far.
Yeah.
And I think because the bridge of the Enterprise in this one looks almost like yesterday's Enterprise, where you get that really dark look to it.
Yep.
And I do agree with you to a point on that. I mean, I like the cinematic lighting, but I think it was too much.
I just think it was a little bit too dark. I definitely understand they couldn't have had it that bright, like the TV series. It's a whole different type of shooting when you're shooting from film to TV show. So they had to change that. It just becomes a little distracting when they're all walking around looking like they're going to bump into one another because they can't see where they're going.
You're right.
And then there's one other thing I wanted to mention that most people may not know about this, and that's the costumes, which a lot of people wonder, what the heck's going on with the costumes? They look, why are they wearing some are wearing Deep Space Nine costumes, some are wearing the regular Next Generation costumes. That wasn't originally their intention. Robert Blackman, who designed the costumes for the TV series, he had always intended to do new uniforms for the film because they have a larger budget. They can create new uniforms because it's expensive, so they need the larger budget. And plus, they were going to create new uniforms that they could use for Deep Space Nine too, and they were going to use the budget on the film for that. However, and they designed these beautiful uniforms. They're incredible. They're a 3-piece suit. Had a division color undershirt, black pants, and then a wraparound like tunic style jacket with had rank pips on the lapel, and as well as the rank braiding on the cuffs, just like the original series had. Yeah, and they were very sharp looking, and the cast looked darn good in them when they're standing up. But when they started filming, and they did film with these, they ran into a lot of practical problems. The jackets tend to ride up considerably, to the point where they were right up against their chin every time they sat down or lying down, and there was no amount of Picard maneuver could fix this. So they shot a couple scenes. They shot the scenes with Geordi being interrogated by Soren, and they shot the sick bay scenes with Crusher and Riker and Geordi and them, and they realized it wasn't going to work. They just weren't going to work. It's so they had to very quickly come up with a solution, and they brought back the old uniforms. They borrowed some of the Deep Space Nine uniforms. I believe Jonathan Frakes was wearing Avery Brooks' uniform, and LeVar Burton was wearing Colmeany's. That's why their uniforms are like that, and because it was done so late in the day. Unfortunately, some of the stuff that was originally coming out before the film shows these uniforms. The big one being the Playmates action figures. If you go and get any of the action figures for Star Trek Generations, they're all wearing these different uniforms. It's kind of neat seeing them, but we never saw those uniforms on screen. Plus, there's also an action figure of Kirk in his skydiving uniform too, which never made it to the film. But
nice.
I always love that story. It's a pity that they weren't able to use them, because they are beautiful uniforms, and the lower decks uniforms are actually based on these designs.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember reading about that. I thought it's interesting to think of the fact that Riker is wearing Cisco's uniform, and the fact that he had to roll up his sleeves because it was too long for him.
Of course, next film, they finally got to make uniforms that worked, and then those uniforms were carried over to Deep Space Nine. So it all worked out in First Contact, but this was a trial run.
It all worked out. It was still interesting to see. Anything from you, Scott? Anything behind the scenes?
Well, it kind of. I mean, I guess it's uniform adjacent. Troy's burned backside.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently during the battle with the Klingons, when Troy is at the helm, there was a lot of debris that was flying around, and some of it was burning debris, and it happened to land on her seat as she was coming back down on it. So you can still see the cut in the film. It actually cuts away right before she sits on the chair. She wasn't badly injured, but they continued to film the scene afterwards. I imagine that probably wasn't very comfortable at all. It could have been a very chaotic kind of scene.
I didn't know that. I'm going to have to watch for that now.
Right.
Ouch. That's for sure.
What about you, Dave?
No, there's just you guys hit on pretty much on the ones that I really wanted to talk about. The only one other interesting one that I have is, so when this movie came out in 94, I actually saw this while I was filming Andersonville in Georgia. And we, some of the people who were working on the film and we went to see this movie. We were all Star Trek fans and we wanted to see it. Well, to our surprise, as we got to the end of this movie, we're watching the credits roll, we realized Bud Davis was the stunt coordinator for Star Trek Generations. And it turns out we knew Bud Davis because Bud Davis was working on Andersonville with us as the stunt coordinator.
Wow.
So it was kind of nice to, when we went back to the set the next day, we went, "Hey, Bud, we see that you worked on Star Trek Generations." He's like, "Yeah, I sure did." And he was telling us some stories about Kirk, about William Shatner, how nice William Shatner was on the set and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool to get that connection to Generations there. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Bud Davis has done a ton of stuff. If you look him up on IMDb, that man has been very busy over the years. He's not with us anymore, but he did a lot of stuff in Hollywood. It was kind of nice to get to talk to somebody who had actually worked on Star Trek. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about some what ifs, guys. So we've already mentioned some of them as we've been talking. One of the things that I found very interesting was Marlon Brando really considered for Thorin? Really?
I mean, Dave, you and I have talked about Superman. We've talked about Apocalypse Now. I wouldn't wish that on this crew.
No, not at all.
I don't know. 1994 Marlon Brando. I can't see it. I just can't see it. No, me neither.
Not as much moving around as Malcolm McDowell had to do.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have changed it for him, but it would not have worked, in my opinion. No way. No way.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Anything from you guys?
Is the only one that would be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Malcolm McDowell all the way, for sure.
Well, I had some, not necessarily alternate casting, but just some kind of things that came to mind, what if wise.
Mm-hmm.
We see later in Picard Season 3 that Kirk's body is kept at Daystrom Institute. And at first that kind of struck me as odd. Like, aside from historical significance, what could they possibly want from his body? It might be interesting to think of it based on this Nexus event. So he's somebody that went into the Nexus and came back out of it. It doesn't seem like the Nexus is necessarily classified because Data talks about it in stellar cartography.
Yeah.
But I wonder if maybe they wanted to keep his real death something that's kept secret and possibly keep that body for future study. By the same token, they'd be interested in Guinan, but yeah.
That's a unique angle, Scott. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way either.
Good call.
The other one that was kind of, something to think about or something to ponder. So Picard's loss of his family is obviously crushing. We've talked about that before. He appears, and I thought it was kind of an odd choice to have him appear at Christmas. But there's a lot of light, and there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of, wrapping up joy in kind of a holiday event, right?
Right.
I wonder if it's possible that we're seeing a scene if he had made a different choice in the family episode. So because it looks like the Renee character, even though it's a different casting.
I think that's actually what they were going for. Because wasn't the woman supposed to be his wife?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if it looks like Renee it's a different casting choice for the character of Renee, but it seems like it's approximately the same age. So are we possibly seeing something where obviously it would be years after because he's married and has several kids, but something that kind of takes that to the extreme, like thinking back to the discussion he had with his brother and the choice that he almost made. It feels like that's almost like a what if for him.
Yeah. Good call
Yeah,
again, man.
Never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Get deep on us here, Scott. I like it.
I don't know.
Anything for you, Wayne?
Other than what we've mentioned, and I've seen the deleted scenes. We talked a little bit about them, and it's interesting to think of the film with all these deleted scenes, and there were quite a few of them actually, not just the ones we mentioned, but the ones that there's one rather lengthy scene in the sick bay after they get Geordi back. Was taken out and covered with just captain's log, with a quick shot of that was reused from the TV series. It's an interesting thought too. If you included all these scenes, it does kind of change the tone of the film, and definitely changes the pacing of the film. That's my what if is thinking of what could have been included in this film.
Yeah, good call. Well, let's talk about the score, guys. We all know that we always love talking about music of films. Wayne, I know you do. We know this was done by Dennis McCarthy. And guys, I thought he did a fantastic job in this film.
He did.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the score. It hit where it needed to, but yeah, it was very enjoyable for sure.
He created some good themes that were. He didn't just reuse music that he'd written, and he'd been writing for Next Generation since day one. He worked on Encounter at Farpoints, but he created all new themes for this movie. He would go on and use a lot of them in Deep Space Nine, but this is. He had a much larger orchestra to use here than what was normally used in the TV series, and this is the first time that a composer used a choir in a Star Trek score.
I love choir, you know that.
Yeah, I know you do. Yes, and he did a wonderful job. It's great in this score. It's subtle, but it makes a lovely background to his pieces. He created 3 new themes for this, and he used Alexander Courage's original series fanfare through it. The only thing that he decided not to use Jerry Goldsmith's theme, and I think that was a mistake.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would criticize his score was only because I'm such a huge Jerry Goldsmith fan. But you know what? Hey, they'll fix that next film.
Yes, they will, of course.
I feel like it could have been an interesting addition at the end, right?
Yeah.
After we've kind of passed the baton and Kirk has gone on, to have that play and just an acknowledgement, like, okay, it's the Next Generation's show from now on. Let's move into it.
Saying that too, though, I love his end credits. I think he wrote an incredibly wonderful end credit suite. I'm not faulting that because it is fantastic.
It really is.
Sure.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about some Easter eggs. Wayne, did you find anything interesting in this film? Because you're so good at this.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, and I was going to mention this earlier, this film is set, it takes place 1 year after the events of the finale of The Next Generation, All Good Things. You know, that's kind of important. There's a little bit of time between the two. This was also Whoopi Goldberg's first appearance for a while, since season 6's Suspicions.
Yeah.
They had originally was going to have her come back in Deep Space Nine's second season, an episode called Rivals, but she wasn't available. And it's in that episode where her race is first identified, the El Aluran.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of people think it's this film. No, it was actually in this episode of Deep Space Nine. Let's see. We talked about Tim Russ.
Yep.
Let's see. Here's one. Picard, Riker, Data, and LaForge are the only 4 characters of the main cast to wear those Deep Space Nine uniforms in the film. And the only female was Alyssa Ogawa, who also, she's from the series. She makes an appearance in here too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And this, I read this one. I never heard this before, but I thought it was rather funny. Captain Picard's chair was stolen, the one off the bridge, just hours before they were beginning to shoot this film. They had to quickly cobble something up, to be able to film.
Yes.
Yeah, and by the way, they have found it. I just saw this the other day. It's actually, if listeners, if you don't know, we're actually recording this the same weekend as San Diego Comic-Con. It's actually on display at the Comic-Con right now. It has been found, and good. I'm glad they found it. I wonder. I'd love to know the story of what happened.
Yes, please tell us the story. Someone, inquiring minds want to know.
They've got some red shirt security officers just positioned around it.
Yeah.
And the only other Easter egg. Well, this isn't so much for the film, but to some of the merchandise. When Generations was novelized by J.M. Ballard, the hardcover was released on December 1st, 1994, but he wrote it before the reshoots was done. So the hardback version of the book, if you're ever curious about the original ending, read the hardback book. It's there. That's the original ending. But if you got the paperback, he went and rewrote it so that it matched the one as filmed.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's interesting. He went back and did that just for the paperback. Interesting.
There's one minor thing that I caught, and Wayne, you'll have to keep me honest. There's a bat'leth in Kirk's house.
Yes, there is. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about that.
I don't remember him ever being given a bat'leth on screen. No. And my theory is, if that's wrong, my theory is that after Undiscovered Country, when he finally had, that moment of moving on with the Klingons and having such an important role in what happened there, that maybe he was ceremoniously given that bat'leth as kind of an honorarium for his work there.
That would be a good backstory for that. But I'll baffle you even more. That same scene where you see that bat'leth, for some odd reason, there's a Jemadar weapon hanging near it. Now, how he got that, I don't know.
It was a Jemadar that got into the Nexus and snuck into his house just to mess with him.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. All right, so favorite moments, guys. Scott, what about you?
In that kind of area, Kirk making breakfast. I don't know why, but I've always loved seeing him making the eggs. His little joke where he says "dill," like easy, buddy. But chopping the wood, making the breakfast. It's where that squirrel logic seemed to hit most for me with the Nexus.
Yeah.
But interesting how, when Kirk is there, he knows that it's the day he decided to go back to Starfleet, he's going to change his mind. Yeah. Then it quickly goes to, wait, this is the day that I met, so I can do it all right from the beginning. It was just great to see him in those moments.
Yeah, I agree. Wayne, what about you?
Well, I mentioned the one earlier about the scene with Picard and Troy when he breaks down about hearing his death of his family. But and I love the open sesame scene, but I'm going to have to say personally, the crash scene is just phenomenal. The lead up to the crash scene, the evacuation of the star drive section, the way the whole thing is filmed, and then the explosion. It happens so fast. It's not something that that you have time to build up. When the explosion happens, it's a real shock. I mean, they had barely enough time to get away, and I love how the whole thing was structured from the beginning of the evacuation all the way to when the saucer section comes to a rest on the planet. Wonderful scene, and so shocking when we saw it.
I'm going to completely 100% agree with you on this, Wayne. That entire sequence is my favorite piece of the whole film, because they left this for something gigantic, cinematic wise, to give us, and that's exactly what they did. They delivered an epic scene for Star Trek: The Next Generation fans, and they had to. Like I mentioned earlier, Enterprise D is a character of this series. We fell in love with that ship. It's just as much a part of the show as the crew is. And if you're going to destroy it, you're going to kill it, you need to do it in some epic way. And they did it in an epic way.
Yeah.
Let me expand on what you're thinking right there with a what if. The original idea to do this was first planned to be the season 6 finale. Now think of what if. What would have happened? How would it have been if we would have lost the Enterprise in season 6?
It would be neat to get another Enterprise after that, but I don't think they could have pulled it off with the budget they had.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I don't think they could have done it, but I think it would have been one of the worst mistakes they could have ever made, because having to start with a new ship for one more season. Yeah. For just one season, we wouldn't have had that familiarity like we had with the D. Yeah. And then when they went to the films, we wouldn't have cared so much when it happened here in this film. They did the right thing by holding it off for this film.
I completely agree.
Yeah, well, and I think it would have been tough to explain how, there would be a significant time jump then between from one season to the next, because it's not like they have this valley parking lot of Galaxy-class starships. They could just be like, oh, you need the rental over here? Sure.
Right. Yeah, sure.
House the keys.
Yeah. Guys, if you could, we've done this before, in Stranger Worlds and those kind of things. So I thought it'd be interesting to do it here. If you could be anyone in the film, who would it be and why? Wayne?
Oh wow, that's a really hard question, but I think I'm going to say Data.
Get off my notes.
Only because we watched for 7 years of him struggling to understand humanity, understand being human, and humor. And now with this chip, he has opened up a completely new world for himself to explore. And it's a rough start, but think of all the fun him and the crew's going to have. We had fun watching it, and I've got to say Data.
Yeah, Scott, what about you?
But then you'd have to drink that revolting drink that he hates. That was a comedy highlight for me.
I forgot about that scene. Yes, I love that.
Yeah. It is revolting. More, please. I was kind of surprised by my answer when I thought of it, but Captain Kirk. Okay. To paraphrase one of his last lines, it was fun. It seemed like every sequence he's involved in looks like it would be a lot of fun to film or for the character to be in. Even things that are as simple as chopping wood and cooking breakfast, which gave me that kind of Captain Pike vibes from Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
But the horseback riding, the climbing through engineering, and obviously that one last action scene. It looked like he was having fun throughout. And I was happy to see that for him, for this kind of a character. Coming out of the Nexus, leaving behind Joy, it didn't seem like he was dying in despair. Yeah. He was dying exactly how he thought he should.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yes, definitely.
But for me, again, everyone, Wayne's reading my notes, okay? But no, I agree with you again, Wayne. It's definitely Data. For me, he's come a long way, getting to see him get to this point. But can you imagine if you've never had emotions ever, and you finally get them for the first time, what that experience, what that feeling would be.
Yeah.
And humor would where you would probably want to go to quickly, and that's exactly where Data went. And he was some very good comic relief in this movie, and I'm glad we had it because, again, we got to see the comic side of Brent Spiner, who is really good at comedy.
Oh, yes.
And I'm glad that he got to show that in this film. And yes, I agree. It would be Data for me for sure.
We love Data. We love the character, and he expands. We got to see his adventure from Encounter at Farpoint all the way to the end of Picard season 3, and how much he's grown. It's just we love Brent Spiner. We love Data.
Yeah. Well, he runs the gamut of emotions, going from the laughing scene all the way to the end where he finds Spot and is overcome.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true.
Spot.
It was great, and I think it's possible that if Troy had kind of looked over and seen that, she would have just like tap into the comm badge and said, like, clear my schedule for the next 6 months. This guy's gonna be on my couch.
Yeah.
No other patients for a while.
He's gonna be a mess.
This will take a bit.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys, have you guys ever seen on YouTube the Star Trek Regenerations, the Roddenberry archive?
Uh-uh.
I think so.
So go watch this. Listeners, go watch this. It is a short done by a fan, and it shows the saucer section being, ships are coming in to try to pick it up, and you see a someone's arriving. You see
yes. I did see that.
You see this person go to the grave of Captain Kirk, and it turns out to be Spock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It
is a really good addition that, incredibly done by a fan. So as listeners, if you've not seen this, go look it up on YouTube. It is incredible. Very touching.
Yeah. It's so beautifully done. Whoever did that, bravo. It's incredible.
Yeah. It really is. All right, listeners, tell us what your favorite part of this film was. Who was your favorite character, and were you just as excited as we were when this crew made the leap to the big screen? Let us know by sending an email to afilmbypodcast@gmail.com or reach us online at afilmbypodcast.com or follow us on all social media platforms. And if you're looking for more exclusive content and swag, send some Latinum our way through Patreon. See you next time for another episode of Phasers Set the Stun.